Hi, my name is Aidan Mahoney and today I will be presenting an assignment on GAA injuries and rehabilitation for St College. The chosen sport I have chosen to talk about is Gaelic football, GAA, and so the next couple of slides we'll go through everything in relation to injury and rehabilitation and also to programs for injury prevention. So Gaelic Athletic Association GAA sports such as Gaelic football and hurling are similar in each code, consisting of 15 players on a pitch. The only difference is Gaelic football is played with a ball similar size to a soccer ball, and hurling is played with a hurley or a stick and a small ball similar to the size of a handball. That's from McIntyre MC 2005. This presentation will explore the demands of the sport, which is GAA football, the common musculoskeletal injuries associated with it, their mechanisms and effective prevention and recovery methods. So what are the demands of the sport and what are the demands of football and GAA? So the physical demands, GAA sports involve explosive movements, rapid change of direction and high intensity sprinting, placing tremendous stress on the musculoskeletal system. That's from McGahan, Jason et al. 2020. Tactical demands, again, players must quickly react to the dynamic flow of the game, anticipate plays and make split-second decisions, adding cognitive strain. And then obviously the nutritional demands, proper fueling and hydration are crucial to sustaining the high energy expenditure and supporting recovery from the physical toll. And that's from Beasley Kate 2015, who was also my nutritionist when I was playing football. Again, the demands of sport, so 60% of the game, 60-70% of the game is made up from 5 metres to 10 metre sprints, and that's from McIntyre et al. 2005. And 30 to 40% of velocity runs from 10 metres to 25 metres plus, and that's from Brown and Waller 2014. Okay, so the skeletal injuries, in a study by Murphy et al. 2012, it was reported that muscle was the most frequent injured tissue, culminating in 42.6%. Fractures accounted by 4.4% of Gaelic football injuries. Hamstring injuries were the single most common injury overall, and that's 24%. And the anterior cruciate ligament, or the ACL injuries, accounted for 13% of knee injuries. So the three I've identified today are the knee, the ankle and the hamstring. And the one I'm going to talk about today is the hamstring. So the previous injury and the age, I suppose that's nothing the coach can do about that. Previous injury we can't do anything about, and obviously age is a factor as well. Now, the mechanisms involved are associated with GAA and with hamstring injuries are sprinting, turning, accelerations, decelerations and landing. And from the demands of the GAA, which we spoke about already, a lot or nearly most of the game is sprinting, turning, accelerating, deaccelerating, landing, and these are the mechanisms that are associated with hamstring injuries. So, strategies to prevent hamstring injuries. So, from the intrinsic side, you're looking at concentric strength. You're focusing on strengthening the hamstrings during the rapid forward movements. Eccentric strength. So, you're strengthening the hamstrings' ability to control deceleration and prevent overextension. High speed running. So, in your warm-ups every night, in your training, getting players used to, I suppose, max intent in their sprints at the start of the training or the start of the week when the body is fresh, and then you're training the hamstrings to withstand the strain of peak speeds. Again, at the end of the training or at the end of a warm-up, and when the body is fresh, you have to expose players to high-speed sprints, to acceleration, deaccelerations, to landing mechanics, to decelerations, and then you have good lateral hip function, which means your mechanics are you're training players to have good posture and good running mechanics. And I just put in there on the finish, it's not the loads that won't break you down, it's the load you're not prepared for. So when I'm coaching players, I always say to them that when we do our warm-up and we've our prime or we're just getting ready for our speed working, I always say to them, right, max intent in every sprint. And the reason for that is, if you don't go with your max intent in every sprint, when you get to the games or when you get to the small side of games or the training session, you can possibly injure a hammer because your hammer, it hasn't been exposed to the high strain of those peak speeds, and that's from MOSR 2020. Then the extrinsic side is the training load, so you're monitoring the training load. This can be done through GPS, stat sports. The recovery is obviously very important with supplements, with the foods you take after, and then the fatigue management is basically probably a questionnaire asking players how they're feeling, how they are after training, get them to give your RPE from 1 to 10 and how they're feeling. So from the extrinsic side, the training load, the recovery and the fatigue are huge in the strategies to prevent hamstring injuries. On the contrantrinsic side, so we're looking at exercises like hamstring curl, banded hamstring, inner outer lunges, and isometric hamstring holds. For the eccentric strength, you're looking at your Nordic hamstring curls, you're looking at your single leg RDLs, your double leg RDLs, you're looking at your valve slides, and you're looking at your Swiss ball hamstring holds. ISO holds are using for eccentric strength, and these can be done off the bench, they can be done off the floor, they can be done with 2 legs, they can be done with a single leg, and you can do them at 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. So our pre-match warm-up. So the pre-match warm-up is as follows. So you start off with your drills. So we follow the ramp protocol. So your raised temperature, your jogs, your high knees, your butt kicks, everything is 20 meters. Then we go into our lunges, our squats, our knee to chest, our single leg RDLs, so we're getting our hamstrings ready. Then we go into our linear mechanics, our A march, our A skip and our B skip. And these are very important in that you coach the players in their mechanics, especially in their race. So get into their A march, get that toe pointed up, get that knee punching, get that tall posture, get them to drive that knee and drive that leg, opposite hand, opposite leg. Then we go into our single exchange, our dribble, and then we go into our linear acceleration. So this is where we're getting the hamstrings ready. So you accelerate 10 meters at pace, back pedal, so we're de-accelerating on the line, back pedaling, then we're accelerating again. Then you have your walking start, so you might walk 5 meters behind the line, walk in, sprint 10 meters. Then we go into our plyos, into our broad jump again, the pogos, getting those toes bouncing up off the ground, getting those toes, body posture is straight. Our broad jump, big long jump, you're getting into your landing mechanics, your de-acceleration, your single leg hops, again, you're getting into those things of de-accelerating, of jumping from one leg to the other. And then we get into our max velocity build-ups. So our form runs, we have 3 form runs, they're 40 meters, and as you can see there, it says build to zone 4. So every zone is 10 meters. So zone 1 is 10 meters, zone 2 is up to 20 meters, zone 3 is up to 30 meters, and zone 4 is up to 40 meters. So the form runs first at 40 meters, 3 runs. So you're telling your players up tall, getting those knees punching, getting them into good running mechanics. Then we're building into zone 4 for 40 meters at 80%, next one is 85%, and then we're at 90% of the max velocity build-up. And then we're going into our sprints. 6 sprints, and as I said here, 8 seconds, so it should be just less than 40 meters. Do your sprint from the line, 100%. Walk back every time. So your walk back is, if you sprint 35 meters, you walk back 35 meters, you reset yourself every time. So finishing off, getting our hamstrings use of max speed, 6 sprints, and then the body is warmed up. So that's our pre-match warm-up. So our injury prevention, so this is for the gym and the pitch. In relation to the gym session, so for every night, I'll be telling the players, right, so before we start our gym sessions, this is our injury prevention, this is our prehab. So we start off with our 4 rollers, your backs, your lats, your triceps, your chest, 3 minutes. Then we get into our goblet squat banded, so your mini bands around both sides of your quads. You do 3 sets of 10. Then you do your banded walks. So you do straight first, so sit back into a squat and walk forward by 10. Then you walk laterally by 10, this all works the glutes. Then you go into your clock lunge. So your lunge into 3 sides, so it's forward, back, into the side. And then we go into our hamstring work again, so our single leg glute bridge. Then we do our 3-way plank for the upper body. Same again, the push up and rotate. You do 10 left, 10 right, and then we go into our 90-90 hip rotation. So from the start there, we've worked on our upper body, we've worked on our squats, we've worked on our lunges, so we're working on our hamstrings, we're working on our quads, we're working on our glutes, we're going to our world's greatest stretch, then you go to your IYTW, you go into your duck walk, just to open up those hips, then we go into our pogos to get ready for speed, and then you go into our broad jumping stick, again we're working on deceleration, and finish up then hamstring work again, with Nordics, which are huge for injury prevention for hamstring, and we do 3 sets of 5 with partners. Onto the pitch, like the previous slide, again, we use the ramp protocol, we get into our drills at the start to warm up, so raise the body temperature, then we go into our activation and mobilization, and then we go into our potentiation, which comes from the pogos, so broad jumps and single leg hops, and then we do our farm runs, 40 metres at 70%, then we go up to 80%, 85% and 90%. And at all times, you are explaining to the players why we're doing our prehab in the gym, before our gym session, and also why you do your prehab before you go on the pitch, and with your ramp protocol as well. So the screening procedures to identify predispositions. So the sit and reach test, so that's a test to assess hamstring and posterior chain flexibility to identify tightness and imbalances. Then we have the handheld dynamometer to evaluate eccentric and concentric hamstring strength to detect muscle imbalances. The hamstring bridge is one we can use in the pitch. So you observe movement patterns to identify compensations and lumbar-pelvic instability. Then we have our hamstring brake test. Again, you can do this on the pitch, and obviously it's by a physio. It's a test single leg balance and core stability to assess neuromuscular control. And then the hamstring solo, which is a huge amount, which is used by most GA teams. So the hamstring solo allows you to access both left and right hamstring, and it will give you an accurate reading if any deficits between left and right. So this can be done on day of testing, and it can also be done before you go training each night. And that's in Brown JR et al. 2020. And finally, the importance of collaboration, and this is very important between the medical team, the management team, the backroom team, and most of all the players. So all interested parties in the team testing day collaborate to discuss relevant results. So the very first thing of any team when you get involved is the screening and testing, and it's also important, the most important thing in injury prevention and rehabilitation. So the screening and testing there. So vulnerable players are highlighted between the medical and S&C. So all vulnerable players that might have previous injuries or injuries on the day are scored low on the test, so they're highlighted by the medical and S&C. Suggested strategies then are discussed for managers, coaches and the S&C to minimise injuries. The programmes are designed for the players based off the testing and screening team. The medical team, the S&C, the management team frequently meet to manage, discuss players' training and obviously players' injuries as well. So players, you discuss the programmes with them, discuss the importance of injury prevention in the gym and before pitch sessions. So what we spoke about earlier, the injury prevention in the gym and the rehab work and the prehab work, you explain why we do this, the importance of it, and you get feedback from the players, and you always give them feedback as well on why you do everything. So individually give feedback to players who are affected with injury, so obviously with GDPR. So what we set up there, so vulnerable players that are highlighted, so you individually give them feedback to each player. You also give individual feedback to the players that have screened and tested on that day. So retest regularly throughout the season and have player feedback through questionnaire on the positive negatives from the player's view, and that's from Albert Lee L and Beakley C 2007. And that's my presentation on injuries, GA injuries and rehabilitation. Thank you very much for listening.